Hey guys, Biot-Savart here, bringing you another faction guide. This time we're talking about Gall. Just finished my playthrough with him, and we're going to go through the early, mid, and late game strategies with him, and we're going to go over their units here. So to get started, you start off in a bit of a unique situation. As you get down the faction list, you notice your empires start to get fragmented. So Gaul starts out with most of what is today France, except for Lugdunum here and Massilia here. And they also start off in northern Italy with Mediolanum and Patavium, and they also randomly have Numantia in the middle of what is today Spain. So you're going to have some options here of what to do. The strategy that I explored was to immediately unify Gaul in northern Italy and what is today France by immediately conquering Lugdunum and Massilia. I believe you'll have an army spawn near Narbo Martius, as well as near Alesia, your capital. You should definitely unify these provinces immediately to get some trade going between the northern Italy here and the rest of your empire, just to unify it. And a bit of an interesting choice you have here in Numantia. You can either take this army and hold the line, which is the least efficient approach, I believe, especially on very hard, or you can do what I did and conquer Osca immediately, just march everybody down the road here and conquer it immediately to once again just unify Gaul. Funny thing is that you are technically unified here by this border here. You can walk through here, but it's massively inefficient. So that is an option, conquer Osca. You may also take this army and head westward and conquer Scalabus or Asturica. That is seemingly just as legitimate, but I did not explore those paths. And most importantly, in your early game, you'll notice immediately that you border the House of Julii here in Italy. So what you can do is you will have enough forces here in Patavium and Mediolanium to immediately march them down south here on the border. The Julii seem to be hardwired to conquer Segesta the first turn of the game. Segesta starts out with no walls, so they'll seemingly have it immediately, and they'll be baited to move from right about here in front of Arretium to Segesta. That gives you the perfect opportunity on turn 2 to take all your forces and besiege Arretium. Arretium is a great, I think, large town at the start of the game, and it's got a lot of great buildings for you to build off of and continue your conquest in Italy, because taking out the Romans quickly is the strategy with Gaul. You don't want to wait for them to get their Marian reforms and get tough on you, because at the start of the game, we'll go over this in a minute, your units are actually better than the Roman units, believe it or not. And after you take Arretium, either this Roman army will march on Mediolanium, so be ready for that. Be constantly building units in Patavium and Mediolanium, whatever's available. I believe you'll have swordsmen available. Or if they're not so bold at Segesta, you'll have a spy to tell you where they are. You can just plant it in Segesta or near to tell you where the army's going. If they're not so bold, you can quickly besiege and conquer Ariminum, and then the Julii will be easy work to finish off, because they'll have no way to reinforce their army here. And I think they'll just have a stadi. At the start of the game, also that while you're doing that, you will notice that the Britons start out with Samara Briva. So you need to conquer these two settlements of Lugdunum and Massilia very quickly, or the Britons will get emboldened and conquer Condate Redonum or Alesia. Either or, it's not good for you. That, or the Germans will come marching in from Trier, and they'll start besieging Alesia, so you need to keep building and building your economy, more importantly, at the start of the game. Alright, let's go over the units a little bit here. Your units are actually very strong as Gaul. You are in the Barbarian culture group, of course, so as you can see, you don't get a lot of Tier 4 and Tier 5 buildings at all, even. Except for the religious buildings. Even those are Tier 3. But nonetheless, let's take a look at some of these units. So, the best unit you're going to get, well, let's start off with warbands. These are not that bad. 4 morale, it's not that bad against 6 morale Hastati. But, moreover, what you're really looking for to get is swordsmen. At 8 morale, these already beat Hastati at 6 morale, so you can easily beat the Romans right there on the spot. With 10 melee attack as well, and 12 total defense, you're already pretty much set for the early game. But your premier infantry unit, the Chosen Swordsmen, are a whopping 12 morale with 13 melee attack and 17 total defense. That's a lot better than I believe the other Barbarian culture group units get, at least for heavy infantry. Also, as opposed to the Britons, you actually get some heavy cavalry. You don't get any chariot cavalry, but you do get heavy cavalry. At a morale of 8 and melee attack of 9. That's pretty good for the start of the game. And the best... I've noticed these Forester warbands are extremely good archers. These are almost at the level of Cretan archers, I would say. Except you can spawn them ad infinitum. You don't have to buy them as mercenaries. 12 morale, 11 melee attack, amazingly, and 11 missile attack. That is huge. Once these guys get a little bit of experience and some armor upgrades, I believe one of your religious buildings even upgrades missile weapons. Let's see, I believe it's this. Abnoba building, missile weapons plus 3. That is huge. We are looking at, therefore, 14 missile attack right off the bat, Forester warbands. Those melt units. I believe I should be able to implement a YouTube short of mine which shows the power of 17 missile strength Forester warbands right here in the video. So take a look at that if you don't believe me. Those guys melted the Roman units. And they've got 30 volleys and a whopping range of 170. That is also the same range as Cretan archers and I believe onagers. So these are incredibly good units. Even without any upgrades, 11 missile attack is nothing to be trifled with. Interesting to note, as the barbarian culture group, you do not get access to paved roads, so you are going to be moving rather slowly around your own empire. Bit of a shame, but that's the game's balance. And of the religious buildings, you do have some units hidden here. These naked fanatics, not bad. These are pretty good units, although they do take 2 turns to recruit. Given that, they do have the bonus of Warcry improves attack, just as your other units have that little bonus. I believe the way to properly use that is to click on that ability or activate that ability right before going into battle, and then go into battle. Don't click it while you're already engaged in melee. Just a heads up. This other religious building, plus 3 experience to troops trained here, not bad. Of course, Abnoba upgrades missile weapons, plus 3, very good. And the final Sacred Circle of Isis building, you get access to druids. This is not a bad unit in and of itself. It has a bonus of chanting inspires nearby troops, which I guess gives some sort of morale or melee attack bonus. I didn't really get a chance to use this unit all that much because my units almost never needed any morale encouragement. Everything after Warband has such good morale for the Gauls that I was surprised. Units almost never broke. So credit where it's due. But nonetheless, the druids are fine. There's only 64 of them, however, so they are a rather small unit, even scaled up or down. And those are the units for your early game considerations. Something I'd also like to note is that you do not get access to anything past a level 2 port. You can only ever build large boats, which, as the game progresses, your boats will always lose to factions that can build quinquiremes. Quinquiremes, I believe they're pronounced. So be prepared to need to build a lot of large boats to compete at sea later on in the game. Alright, let's talk about mid-game. Once you've conquered the Julii, you have the option of going straight for Rome. I believe that's the best way to go. I tried to go for Capua, tried to go around here and go for Capua. I think that was a waste of time. I should have just gone for Rome immediately. The problem with conquering Rome is that they'll have like 6 generals in there. You need to get all your infantry in a little corridor and hopefully fight the generals in a tight arrangement such that they cannot spread out and flank you and really cause morale shocks to your units. If you fight them in as tight a street as possible, you can just outlast them via your 20 stack of soldiers. I'd also like to mention that your general should also be nearby your units to give them a little bit of morale and melee attack bonus. Something that kind of annoys me is that the warband unit, it appears to be a spear unit, but it does not get any bonuses to fighting against cavalry, so it's not as useful as perhaps using your more advanced infantry, which we recently went over. But nonetheless, conquering Italy should be no problem for you. Keep in mind that once you're at war with the Romans, the Brutii here will seemingly not advance in Greece. So either the Greek city-states or Macedonians will conquer Segestica and Salona, so just be ready for them to come over here and flank you. On top of that, Spain should be very easy to take out. Their units are very weak. Similar with Carthage, they'll only have one settlement in Corduba, if anything. They'll be easy to take out. And once you've conquered Spain, feel free to conquer Tingi almost immediately. Your merchants will make a lot of money here. For example, this merchant's already making 772 gold a turn at 10 stars. This merchant, 405 gold a turn. That's very good. I also noticed this part of the world is not as rich as Greece or Egypt. I was never making as much money as I was making when I played those factions over there. So it's easy to march on to Tingi and march eastward to Cirta, and Carthage and Thapsus should be pieces of cake. Your units are also stronger than the Numidians' units, and you should be able to handle Carthage's units at that point in the game. Minor note, when you get to conquering Britannia here, definitely take Londinium, but strongly consider, if they come at you with a peace treaty, to simply become Protectorate and keep Deva and Eboracum. I would strongly recommend you take that peace treaty. The Protectorate status counts as owning those settlements for victory conditions, number one. Number two, these settlements are not very rich or populated. They're going to take a while to grow. These took me a very long time to grow, and Tara also not really worth your time. If you can just conquer Londinium and puppet the Britons, that's a perfectly legitimate strategy. Do not feel ashamed by doing that. At some point, the Germans will also declare war on you, so be ready to head east. Trier and Mogontiacum should be the first settlements you grab. Minor note about the Germans is that they have access to spears, which will give your own infantry a tough time. They're not very long spears like the Greek units have, but they will require units to flank them in battle nonetheless. Of course, if you have enough Forester Warband, you can just shell them with arrows until they submit. That is the most effective way to deal with spears, of course. And something to note about the German lands is you have access to Amber and the region of Vicus Gothi and the region of Locus Gothi, excuse me, and Tribus Saxons will make you a lot of money for your merchants. And just keep heading eastwards. The game should be pretty much in autopilot by that point. You might be in contact with Scythia or Thrace by the end of the game. Note that Thrace's Falxmen will actually give your own heavy infantry a tough time because they're also at morale 10 or 11 or something high like that. Just keep that in mind. And you should be able to head on down to Greece by the end of the game if you're not done with the Scipii and Sicily. Just for the fun of it, let's toggle the Fog of War. See how the factions did in this game. Looks like Numidia did very well this game. Egypt did not so well. Pontus did mid. Thrace did rather well this game. And Parthia did rather well this game. So good for them. Just curious. Alright, I think that covers the early, mid, and late games for you. Your units are very powerful as Gall. Keep it going. Keep playing Total War Rome Remastered. Winning the Gall campaign will grant you the achievement, the Sheer Gall. So keep playing Total War, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.